and clips on the beat.
Listen, I want to hold you for a quick moment. All right, we have something called Smoke and Mirrors. Okay. And our Smoke and Mirror segment is basically our news segment where we talk about different news things that are going on, whether it's international, a lot of local stuff, and we try to keep it as hip hop centric as possible. All right. And for the people who are just tuning into the audio part of this interview here or of this conversation right here, we have Mastermind in the motherfucking building. You know what I'm saying? So okay, let me see. What page am I looking at here? Wrong page.
You're on the wrong page.
Okay, here I am here. UFC Private Island. That's what I'm looking at here on the list here first. There's a WrestleMania already happened. They pre-recorded WrestleMania and
without a crowd.
Without a crowd and like in a
no audience.
Yeah. With Gutsy Guts, our wrestling correspondent. What was WrestleMania like without the crowd?
It was whack. Still, I can't lie.
Really? 'Cause I heard mixed reviews. I heard some,
but like it just without the fans there. Like certain people won championships for the first time, and you know what I'm saying, with no fans, that's whack.
The interesting thing is, they had a record amount of social media engagement. This is the highest social media engagement they've ever had in the history of the WWE with the no crowd WrestleMania. And the interesting thing about it is, like, when I was a kid, I was a super wrestling fan. I'm not so much into it anymore. But the one thing that I do notice, or that I did notice with some of the stuff that I saw with WrestleMania, or any of wrestling in more so because of the entertainment value, like the part of it, is that it almost pulls back the curtain, because the crowd is such a huge component of the bad guys selling what they do as heels and the good guys doing what they do as baby faces. And so when you don't have the crowd there, it's almost like they're doing a dress rehearsal for the acting part of it. You know what I mean? Because we all know what wrestling is. We all know it's huge athleticism, but it's all scripted, and it's everybody's, for the most part, are boys, right? Everybody's cool with each other, and it's not
have a beer right after,
right? And so, it really is interesting to see it pulled off without the, like, for example, like. And I don't know if they still do it, but like when a referee gets distracted by something and the audience is screaming, "Yeah!" and he's playing stupid or playing dumb, how does that happen with no audience? You know what I mean?
Well, now they're going to be doing UFC, no audience, on a private island somewhere.
Yeah.
So what do y'all think about that? You think that they can pull that off?
It's different though, right?
Yeah, private island, that gives it a different twist. But does, like, who's on that? Because if there's people on that island, I'm not wanting you guys to come over there and bring whatever possible shit that you guys have.
It's probably an uninhabited island, right? So it's not. It's just going to be like an island that Dana White and his billionaire people went and bought. But the reason that they can pull it off, and not really have the same issues as the WWE, in my opinion, is. It's just like, if you've ever watched the UFC shows where they were Ultimate Fighter, where the training ones where the guys were up and coming.
Yeah.
There was never anybody in the crowd anyway. It was just the people on the two separate teams, right? And so you had your guys in the coaches' corners and all that stuff, and then you had the two fighters. And if you listened to that, it wasn't a lot of crowd. There was no crowd. It was just hearing the two coaches yelling and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to be very similar. It's going to be very similar to that, because, again, for me, I've been to UFC live and I've watched UFC on pay-per-view, and I actually prefer watching it at home. Like, I don't like the crowd. environment because you don't get to hear the commentary, you don't get to see the close-ups, you don't get to see the replays, you don't get to see any of that stuff. And so they'll be able to pull it off in the sense that you're going to there's nobody going to be on the island. Everybody has to watch it on TV or pay-per-view or whatever the case may be, and you're going to still get the excitement of the actual fights. The fights is what's going to be the attraction, right?
But who are they going to bring, though? Because a lot of it, too, you got to remember storytelling. It's like the fighters. It's like who's going to fight who? Because if they're just getting random guys to go fight each other, it's going to be like, eh.
Well, the biggest issue that they had was on the last fight was that Khabib bowed out, right? He said, I'm not traveling because there's all this COVID-19 stuff happening, but I'm supposed to travel. He's not doing it. And so...
like, who you gonna get? Like, if you can get like maybe a Conor McGregor return or somebody big, yeah, you can do numbers. But if you're just getting regular guys to go out there because like they're the only guys that are able to go,
Horace Gracie, yo, bring him back out.
I think the thing about Dana White and his crew is they do their best to put on quality shows, right? So you got to remember the pay-per-views obviously are the bigger names, but they put a lot of free ones on regular TV, you know, for us to watch, like on UFC fight nights or whatever.
Yeah.
And those are like the mid-tier guys, or, you know, some guy who was a headliner, you know, a couple of years ago, but is kind of dropped a few rungs on the contender chart or whatever. And those guys are on those bills. And so I did see somewhere the lineup for the Private Island one, and there was a lot of names that I didn't recognize or whatever. However, and if you're a fan of MMA, and you'll know that a lot of those times are the best shows ever because those guys are out there to prove something and they come out to fight.
Yeah.
And when they know nobody knows who I am, so I gotta win them over by proving. And sometimes
they gotta make a name for themselves.
And sometimes the fights that nobody knows who the two guys fighting end up being the best fights of the night.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens with that shit, man.